guys, it's Kate, and I hope you're having a great day today. I wanted to come on here and do another fluid, but I wanted to do some of masking fluid underneath it as a first layer. So I'm going to do a bit of an abstract landscape, and I'm just going to kind of put a little bit of a shoreline here, almost like we're at a beach or something. And this is very, very, very simple. So I'm going to do next a little bit of a horizon line. And I've got my ruling pen here, which is really helpful. But I'm just going to kind of use this to make some interesting marks on the landscape. And make sure that I get my lines pretty solid. They don't have to be, uniform in width. This is just a very loose painting that I'm going to be doing. So, and I'm still playing with this ruling pen. It's kind of new for me. So I'm just going to make sure that I've got what I want here. This is going to be some water. So what I'm going to do is add just some light areas where there might be highlights. And I'm going to make them thicker down here toward the bottom where it's closer, and then they're going to kind of disappear as you get toward the top. And we'll see how this looks. I'm also going to make sure I have some coming in through the side and from the bottom. And I'm going to also do just some grasses. And I'm just going to be kind of loose and fast with them. Almost like we've got some reeds or something growing out of the water's edge. And this is just some playtime because I don't really know how it's going to turn out. But we'll see. And then maybe we'll do some smaller grasses back here, just to kind of show that it's going off into the distance a little bit. I think maybe the last thing I do is I'm just going to grab my brush and I'm just going to make a few kind of wispy marks across the sky, just to get a little bit of highlight in here too. And then we'll see how that kind of pulls off because it's pretty thin. So I'm going to have to go over it pretty well with my tool. I don't think it's going to be thick enough to kind of pull it up, but I should be able to still rub it back after we add our paint. And I'll have to use my little residue remover tool. It looks like an eraser. So I'm going to let this dry completely, and then I will be back to do the paint layer. And we're going to do some inks today. Very wet. All right, I'm back with some acrylic ink. So I have thoroughly sprayed the back and front of my paper. So it's laying flat and the water's just kind of soaking in. And I grabbed some random acrylic inks. I've got my burnt sienna, I've got some green, some lemon yellow, blue, red, and sepia in different brands, and I'll put them in the description below. But so far, I just have a wet paper. So I'm just going to grab my brush. I sprayed it. Now I'm just going to spread it around a bit, make sure that all the paper parts are moist. And I'm not doing anything special. I'm just spreading it. And I'm just making sure I have a good sheen on everything. And I'm also going to add more water as I go. So what I'm going to do is kind of start light to dark. And I'm going to just see about maybe making this a sunset of sorts. So I'm going to start with my yellow. And I'm just going to add a little bit here next to the horizon. And I'm also going to add a little bit here and maybe a little bit here on the hill. Just like that. And this is going to be very flowy, so I am fine with color kind of going wherever. Now I'm going to go into my red, and I'm going to do the same thing and just kind of let this go. Just like that. And I'm also going to get a little bit into the watery area here. And then I'm going to go for this blue. And I'm going to mix some in with this red and get it going up here at the top. And I'm going to go kind of next to a lot of these areas. And I'm also going to get some spread into my little hillside here. Totally fine. Now I'm going to go into my burnt sienna, which is a favorite color of mine. I'm going to add a little bit in here, especially down here toward the bottom in this area. And then I'm going to go into my green. Now, I'm going to use my spray bottle to add some more water to this. And let this really blend together. But I'm also going to try to keep this sort of sunshiny area intact. So I'm just going to do some slight tilting just to get it to the edges of my paper, but I'm not going to do much tilting up and down. Now what I am going to do is grab my brush and get this up into the top area. Just like that. And I'm also going to bring some of this green down into the bottom. Now, if you have areas where it's traveling a little too much because of the water, I'm going to actually try to blot a little bit of this back where my burnt sienna is coming out a little bit further than I want it to. And you can also blot a little bit if you've got just a lot more color than you really want in a certain spot. So like that right there. I'm going to also come in and pick up a little bit of this blue just around where I have my red. And then I'm going to take another little piece here and blot back this area from my yellow. And I'm going to come back in and kind of reinforce that yellow a little bit. Just like that. I really want to keep that bright spot in the painting. And maybe I'll add just a little bit more red. And again, you can use a brush, whatever you want to kind of move things around, but I really love how this is blending actually. So I'm just going to kind of keep some of this here, get some of this purple. And you can see some of that resist already happening. Now I'm just sort of moving things around a little bit where I want them. So I'm going to blot this a little bit again. Just like that. Don't want too much green in my sky. And then I might move some of this green down into this burnt sienna a bit. And I kind of love these textured areas here where we've got some of those marks from my tools and the droppers, because I kind of dragged those in too a little bit. I'm going to come down here to the ocean and just make sure it's covering the bottom. And I'm going to bring it up into this area a bit too. I want to kind of reinforce that little coastline we've got going. I love how this is turning out, actually. And then kind of bring that to the side. And I think we can let this dry. I like how this looks right now. Now, it's not going to be very controllable because as this dries, it's going to pull in different directions. But I'm hoping by experimenting this way, we may actually get it sort of where we want it. But time will tell. And I have a pretty decent sheen on my paper, but I don't really see any puddles in particular areas. So when I, kind of set this aside, the only thing I'm going to do is just kind of take my paper towel and get some of these huge water droplets off the side. That way it's not going to keep re-wetting my paper. And then we're going to let this dry and come back and see what we've got for this experiment. All right, I am back and I love how this dried. So what I'm going to do next is take my little residue remover tool and start getting off all of this latex, and it's going to leave behind the white of the paper. And then once we get to see what that looks like, I can kind of decide what to do next. I'm going to really enjoy these highlights though, I think. So I will see you in a minute once I get all of this removed. All right, all of the masking fluid is up, and actually I wanted to show you one area. So this is kind of that almost dry brushing that I did, and I wasn't sure if it'd be hard to get up. It's very easy, and I love the texture that it left behind. It almost looks like crayon or something. So you can get some nice rough texture with masking fluid, so that's pretty cool. So I grabbed my dip pen, and I'm going to use some of this sepia ink, and I want to darken some of these grasses in the front. So I'm going to work on that first. So I'm just dipping into some of my ink here, and I'm going to kind of come in and go over some of these white lines, just like this. And I kind of like that sort of dark and light value we've got going on here. I think that's kind of neat. And this is pretty abstract, so I love this little experiment we've got going here. But this came out so good. I really, really like it. I'm just going to do a couple little things there. Maybe go along this coast a little bit. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on the side of my pen and try to add just some texture here. Maybe with a little bit more ink. And this is kind of new to me, so I'm just sort of playing around here, using the back of my bamboo pen. I'm trying not to put too much ink. There we go. Now I got a little bit of flow. I am going to blot up a little bit of this, kind of lighten it up a bit, and maybe see if I can blot a little bit over in this other area. I'm also going to grab my quill brush and a little bit of this yellow, and I just put it right under where my sun is. And so I'm going to take my brush and just kind of spread this out a little bit. and kind of make that horizon golden. And then I'm going to go into this red and do the same and just make it a nice strong color. And I'm going to blot my brush and bring up just a little bit of this. Like that. And then I'm going to do the same with the blue. It's a little bit strong, so I'm just going to lift a little bit because I want it to be more purple than blue. But I love this darkness here. I'm just going to kind of go in here a bit too and add some extra darkness and shadows down here toward the bottom. Now I've got like a drop each of the red and blue to make kind of a purple color. I'm going to add a little bit more red. Yeah, I like that. That's a beautiful color. And I'm going to add some extra water like this, just to make it a little bit more transparent. I'm going to come in here into the clouds and just add a little bit of this purple. And I'm just going over the sky the same way that I did before, and this is going to be a bit of a glaze, and I'm just playing at this point. Who knows what's next? I'm going to do a little bit of yellow here. And add it to some of these little water lines. And then maybe a little bit of this purple down here also. And how about just a little green? And I'm going to add it to this yellow. That's pretty that's pretty intense. I'm going to tone that down a bit. I'm going to add like the tiniest little hint of the burnt sienna. That's a much better green. All right. All right. I think I'm ready to call this little thing done. And this got away from me, but you know, still getting used to my bamboo pen. So this was kind of fun to see where things went, how the masking fluid would work, and kind of painting over it with some other colors. But this is a very interesting piece of paper, but I love how this sun turned out. That is just this gorgeous brightness in the paper. But I'm going to give you a close-up of everything. You can even see some of that purple sort of glazing. And then the second layer, we put on some of the spots and the green. I love the green and burnt sienna. I actually wish I hadn't done so much with that bamboo dip pen because I really loved the texture over here. So I'm a little disappointed about that, but I can always do this again. And that's the beauty of painting. So I hope you enjoyed this video today. If you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Hopefully it gave you some ideas for using your own inks. And well, Thank you for watching, and until next time, keep creating.